like that plane, that's beautiful. Look at that. How nice. 1981, the Royal Mail wedding of Prince Charles and Princess Diana. Very nice. Beautiful. Beautiful! I just want you to know that you're my favourite girl. Beautiful! Yeah. Oh! Excuse me. Earlier this evening, Jazz decided to go for a little drive through the parking lot. And then he thought he'd stop off at the airport in California and hide from the authorities that was chasing him underneath this aeroplane. Earlier this evening, Jazz decided to go to Earlier this evening, Jazz decided to go to the airport in America. Then he decided to pop over to Greenland to just to take a little drive over there because he was a bit bored. Then Jazz thought he'd take a little drive over to Oxfordshire. And then he thought he'd take another little drive over to Keswick. Then Jazz was also a little bored, so then he thought he'd take another little drive to one of the garages in Grand Theft Auto Online. And then he thought he'd sit and eat his sandwiches and have a cigarette in privacy. Yeah, then Dad thought he'd go for a little drive up to Bathurst. And then he thought he'd stop off and see Nathaniel on the way back. Then Jazz got a bit bored at Nathaniel's house, so he decided to take a little drive over to Holland. So he could sit and listen to CFM and have a fag in his car. Then Jazz thought he'd take another little drive around the car park because he was a bit bored. And he had all the time in the world to kill. So he thought he might maybe do so. Then Jazz thought he'd take a little drive over to France so he could drive around France and go shopping at the French shopping centre. Whilst listening to classical FM on his iPhone. Then Jazz thought he'd go over to the Blackpool Pleasure Beach and stand next to the fence and have a fag whilst admiring the boats. Then Jazz thought he'd take a little drive over to Keswick in order to go to the Calvert Trust. Jazz enjoyed his holiday at the Calvert Trust in Keswick there, but then he thought he'd go over to Italy to drive around the city of Lucca. And then he thought he'd go to Rome to visit this museum that's behind him. give it any minute now, we'll get out of his car, and then he'll light a cigarette and walk towards the museum. Jazz didn't really like the museum, so he thought he'd drive around the city of Moscow and just drive around because he was a bit bored. Then Jazz thought that he'd go to the countryside to church. Jazz was seen earlier this evening driving through the woods in Brampton. Jazz finally found a way out of the woods in Brampton, and then he thought he'd go over to Talking Town. Jazz didn't like it at Talking Town, so then he headed back towards Carlisle. Jazz was a bit bored, so he wanted to go for a little detour in a tunnel in America. Jazz enjoyed his little tunnel in America, but then he wanted to go to for a little drive through the streets in Italy. Jazz enjoyed his time in Italy, and then he thought he'd go for another little drive in Japan. Earlier this evening, Jazz was seen driving down the narrow streets of Hertfordshire. Where we seen a BMW X3 followed by a Mini Cooper S. Earlier this evening, Jazz was seen parked up in the lay-by in Baffleswaite. Earlier this evening, Jazz decided to visit Revel. So he could stop off at his granddad's farm. Nah, I wish. Earlier this evening, Jazz was spotted in Kendal. Jazz decided to go for a little drive in New Zealand. Then Jazz thought he'd take a little detour down the back alley in Japan. So he could let some air out of his tyres. Jazz thought he'd go into the parking garage so he could go to Debenhams. Jazz is just driving around Debenhams parking garage so he can find a place to park. But then again, he's a disabled man, so he's going to have to find a disabled parking spot. That's why he's circling Debenhams parking garage looking for one. Oh look, Jazz was seen Jazz was seen in the city of Lucca. Lost. Jazz decided to go and visit Italy again. Just decided to drive around the streets of Mexico. Just didn't really like Mexico very much, so he decided to reunite to London in the UK. Earlier last night, Jazz was spotted in France. Earlier this evening, Jazz was seen in his Honda Type R in Russia. Earlier this afternoon, Jazz decided to go to Bathurst again so that he could drive around Bathurst. Actually, no, that looks more like Wales, to be fair. Jazz decided to go over to Wales so he could visit his Auntie Debbie. Then he ended up leaving because John started throwing some rocks at him. God, that makes a good sound, doesn't it? That's beautiful, isn't it? Jazz went home so he could change to his Ford Mustang. Then Jazz was seen leaving the parking garage to Debenhams. Then he got bored and decided to park underneath this aeroplane in his Ford Mustang. Come on. Then Jazz got bored, so he decided to take a little drive out to the lakes in the Lake District. Jazz thought he'd take a little drive around a racing track. Jazz decided to take a little drive out to Scotland again. Earlier this evening, Jazz decided to go and visit Keswick. Then he got a bit bored in Keswick, so he decided to take a little drive over to the neighbouring raceway. Here comes Jazz again in Italy. Jazz decided to go back to Wales again in order to visit his Auntie Debbie. Then Jazz decided to go to the city of Rome. Jazz got a bit bored in Rome, so he decided to drive round the city of Italy again, just to kill some time. Jazz drove really slowly round that statue so he could admire it. I wouldn't know. Just decided to took a little journey around the city of Los Angeles. Just went back to the Nürburgring Raceway. Here he comes, ladies and gentlemen. Just got bored at the Nürburgring, so he decided to drive around the car park. Just was seen again at the Nürburgring. In his Mustang. Just was also seen once more in his Mustang at the Nürburgring. Just decided to go to another racetrack in Italy. Just wanted to test out his turning circle, so he decided to go to in order to do this, he decided to go to a tunnel in America. Early this evening, Jazz was seen again in Whitehaven. Jazz decided to leave Whitehaven, and then he decided to go to Hyde Park in London. Jazz got bored at Hyde Park, so he decided to go back to Rome again. So he could stop, roll a joint, and then continue driving. Sometime later, while stoned, Jazz turned up again in Russia. Then he got bored and went back to the Nürburgring. Then Jazz decided to go back to Blackpool Pleasure Beach in order to admire the view, stop and have a fag and think about what's going on in his life. So he could put his thoughts together. Jazz decided to drive back to the airport so he could get an aeroplane back to Carlisle. Earlier this evening, Nathaniel Crabtree spotted Jazz Patterson in Baffles way out of his window. Then Jazz decided to stop off at the Nürburgring on the way home. Anyway, Jazz got bored, so he decided to go home. Jazz decided to go home so he could change into his BMW M6.